Carl Reiner, who as performer, writer and director earned a place in comedy history several times over, died on Monday night at his home in Beverly Hills, Calif. He was 98. His death was confirmed by his daughter, Annie Reiner. Mr. Reiner first attracted national attention in 1950 as Sid Caesar's multi-talented second banana on the television variety show, Your Show of Shows, for which he was also a writer. A decade later he created The Dick Van Dyke Show, one of the most celebrated situation comedies in television history, and teamed with Mel Brooks on the hugely successful 2000-Year-Old Man records. His novel, Enter Laughing, became both a hit Broadway play and the first of many movies he would direct. Among the others were 4 of Steve Martin's early starring vehicles. He won praise as an actor as well, with memorable roles in films like The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming, and, more recently, Ocean's 11 and its sequels. But he spent most of his career just slightly out of the spotlight, letting others get the laughs. His contributions were recognized by his peers, by comedy aficionados and, in 2000, by the Kennedy Center, which awarded him the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. He was the third recipient, after Richard Pryor and Jonathan Winters. In his performances with Mr. Brooks and before that with Mr. Caesar, Mr. Reiner specialized in portraying the voice of sanity, a calm presence in a chaotic universe. But despite his claim to the contrary, he was never just the straight man. He was a comedian himself, and he truly understood and still understands comedy, Mr. Caesar said of Mr. Reiner in his book, Caesar's Hours 2003, written with Eddy Friedfeld. Most people still don't realize the importance of a straight man in comedy, or how difficult that role is. Carl had to make his timing my timing. Mr. Reiner was, Mr. Caesar added, the best straight man I've ever worked with. As part of a stellar supporting cast that also included Imogene, Coca and Howard Morris, Mr. Reiner proved his versatility week after week on Your Show of Shows, which ran from 1950 to 1954 on NBC and established the template for sketch comedy on television. He played everything from a harried commuter to a frenzied rock and roller to an unctuous quiz show host. But he is probably best remembered as an interviewer, solemnly posing questions to a mad professor, a spaced-out jazz musician or some other over-the-top character played by Mr. Caesar, and adding to the humor simply by being serious. Mr. Reiner contributed behind the scenes as well. He took part in the frenzied writing sessions that shaped the show, bouncing jokes off the walls of the writer's room with the likes of Mr. Brooks and Neil Simon. I became a writer because of that room, he recalled. I'd say something and somebody would yell, "What do you know? You're not a writer." So I became a writer.